By Palestinian standards, this is a very small pot. Laurette, you have 4 boys and their family. How much do you cook when they're coming
I
home?
make 2, not 1. It's don't fit for everybody. Like 7, 8 kilos of zucchini.
So how long?
I need a whole day. Like Sunday, I work it all Saturday. And
MashaAllah.
they eat it in 5 minutes.
I started cooking and learning how to cook in my grandmother's kitchen. And I have these very vivid memories of being in her kitchen, tasting things. Our series is called Teta's Kitchen, and the Tetas are the grandmothers. Every Palestinian grandmother has a secret. And the secret is her variation of a recipe, is the spice mix she uses, is the cooking method. And then they're inscribed in the diversity of the country. So when you look at Nablus, Jerusalem, Haifa, Jaffa, Jericho, each Teta is going to be, I think, sharing with us a flavor that's typically hers. It's like how they arrange their spices. It's how they dry the produce to keep them out of season. Like, this is magic. Have from generation to generation preserved our kitchen. I'm a chef in Bethlehem. I cook at Fawda restaurant, a restaurant I created 5 years ago. Fawda means chaos, and I think creation comes from this chaos. I hate when people use my Fawda and associate it with Fawda being the Israeli TV series.
Welcome to Gaza.
A lot of our cuisine has been appropriated by the Israelis, and our language also. Fawda means chaos. It's a fantastically beautiful word. You know, Fawda is when you get into your kitchen and you have the produce you've bought from the market, and you're sitting there in front of them and you're like, what am I going to be cooking today for my guests? That's like this, positive, enlightened moment of cooking and creating. And that's what Fawda is. Creation comes from chaos. This is my garden. We're in the heart of Bethlehem's old city, and it's a small garden, but I love growing things I use in my kitchen. I use rose petals that I grow here, so I'm sure they've not had fertilizer, they've not had pesticide, they're just pure rose petals. But I also grow my rosemary, I have my pomegranates, I have my citrus fruits that are here. I have olives that haven't started giving olives, but they'll soon do that. And then I have a big bunch of lavender, and I love using lavender for sweets. Come and see. What's fantastic with the garden is we're going with the rhythm of the season. The farmers we're working with, our grandmothers, everybody had kitchens that lived with their seasons. Our cuisine is what you pick on your doorstep. Most of our farmers are very, very small scale farmers. So everybody has a bit of this house garden that really gives those fresh produce. I mean, this lavender smells like heaven. If you've noticed, I have plenty of roses all over the garden. I use them in my cooking and I love them. It's because my grandmother Emily used to love them and I never got to know her. So that's a bit my homage to her. And they're so good, you can just eat them like this. I grew up in Bethlehem, and I grew up in a period that is quite symbolic for Bethlehem because I was born in 77. I traveled for my studies abroad in the early 90s, and then I came back in 2000. So I actually lived that metamorphosis of the city. I went to school to Jerusalem. My parents used to drive me to Jerusalem. It was 30 minutes away. I saw how the city was getting enclosed a bit. It started with flying checkpoints, and then it became permanent checkpoints. All of a sudden, the Israeli government started building this wall around us. It really disconnected a lot of our relation to other Palestinian cities. السلام عليكم. كيفك؟ شو اخبارك؟ كيفك؟ شو اخباركم؟ كل شيء تمام؟ اليوم بدنا خروف منكم. احلى خروف. مش خروف كامل، خروف لطبخة ورا وكسا. بدنا نروح نشوف الخرفان. Come with me. That's a privilege you only get when you're with a chef. We get to go into the fridge with the meat and pick our meat. يلا. This is heaven for a chef. Look at these beauties. Bethlehem in Arabic means the house of meat. We've been known for thousands of years with our culture of meat. And the butcher we're at, the nutshell, have been butchers for 5 generations. That's where I get my meat. That's where the Teta we're going to be cooking with gets her meat. Everybody in Bethlehem gets their meat here because they grow their own animals. They have their own farms. We know what the animals are eating, we know how they're kept. It's not massive production, but it's extremely good quality. Yeah. Look, it's beautiful. We're gonna cut. We're gonna cut. Hey! We're gonna get this, actually. These are the ribs. That's what we're going to be putting at the bottom of our pan. And then the rest of the meat that's going to go in the stuffing is 2/3 beef, 1/3 lamb. This place has a very special meaning to me because I started working with them as a chef. But before, as a kid, my grandmother used to buy her meat from them. This meat is so good that you can eat it raw. It's the best. حبيبي كيفك؟ لا أنا بالكورونا بس سلام. هيك الزيتونات وين هدول؟ عندي من أرضي. هدول للكبس. كميات. إذا المحشي الصغير. صغير بدنا هيك وأصغر إذا فيه. خلص مناح. من وين هدول؟
من الخضر.
من الخضر ولا رطاس؟
لا والله من الخضر. هذا شريته انا وعبيته. بدك الطول وحده يعني تشوف؟
بدي بس اشوف اذا لسه في رطوبه شوي.
امبارح باكي عندي وركات خضر
بجنن
والله باكي المحلى.
يسلموا هالايدين. وهدول تعبيتك انت. طب سؤال، ليش بتحطي بالكنانه مش بتفرزي؟
بحبش.
بتحبيها صح؟
الكنانه بتسوي لنا بتنفش لنا بتنقدور.
وانا زيك.
انا بحب الكنانه. بحطها في
بتضلها الورقه قطره.
بعدين بضل لونها اسود. الحين هذا بضل لونها مثل ما هو في الكنانه هيك.
بس سؤال، شو بتسوي فيه هلا لما تيجي تطبخيه؟
الحين بنكدها هيك بس بنكدها بطريقه فنيه يعني
بعدين
عشان ما يتكددش. بعدين تغلي الميه
وبتسقطيه.
بتديرها في الميه. بتحب تخليه شويه تغلي عليه الميه ثواني. اذا طولت بدوب لانها طري.
وبعدين
انا فنانه في
طب بعد بعرف، بس بعدين شو بتسوي؟
بعدين بنلف عادي.
بتعرف انا شو بسوي؟ بحطه بالورق بالمي اللي بتغلى. بعدين مشان يبطل يطبخ بحطه مش من ننشله من المي بمصفاه. بنزل عليه مي باردة شوي.
بتلف ولا المطر؟
أنا البلد. أنا البلد. مرحبا. كيفك لوريت؟ شو أخبارك؟ لا الكمامة رجعيها.
سلامتك.
الله يسلمك، شو أخبارك؟
نشكر الله نشكر الله بخير.
احنا اليوم يوم أحد، شو بنطبخ ببيت لحم يوم الأحد؟
في عندنا طبخات كثيرة بس أهم طبخة المحاشي.
بالضبط، بدنا نروح أنا وياكي نطبخ كوسا ومحشي اليوم.
يلا.
صح؟ يلا هينا وصلنا يا لوريت على حوش سريان. أهلا وسهلا لوريت.
أهلا فيك.
تفضلي. For our recipe today, and with Laurette, we're doing stuffed vine leaves and stuffed courgettes. And that's really a typical Sunday dish in Bethlehem. Wara Dawali and Qusa Mahshi is a dish that I adore. It's vine leaves that are rolled with a stuffing of rice and meat, and the courgettes or zucchinis that are cored and then stuffed with that same stuffing and then cooked on a slow fire for a nice hour. And then they're just fondant and so flavorful. I love the acidity of the vine leaves with a bit of tomatoes in that dish. The slow cooking with a bit of meat at the bottom. It's just fantastic.
بتحط في عمري.
أنا كنت بدي أقول لك 65.
بالضبط.
بالضبط؟
بس أنا تجوزت أقل من 17 سنة.
واو.
وما كنتش مخلصة المدرسة. كنت صف 11.
وتجوزتي؟
ما رضوش يخلوني خلص. قالوا بكفي تجوزي. وأولادي تجوزوا صغار عشان هيك فادي يعني اسمه الله. طلبوني وانا ما بديت، ابوي قال لي اكمل تعليمي. قال لا خلص بركنا، فيش تروحي على المدرسه وخبوا لي الشنطه. اوف يا جماعه وانا اصيح وما زبطش الموضوع. غصب عني. بس
انت كملتي بعدين؟
لا ولا كملت
يعني
ولا.
طب انجليزياتك بتجنن
انا من الاجانب اللي بيجوا الممارسه بس اللي بستضيفهم. بعدين فرنساوي انا بحكي منيح كمان.
You know, there's two moments where this dish is fantastic. When you open it and it's cooked, to steal one of them when it's steaming, and then if there's any left, next day cold. Do you remember the first cinema, Bethlehem?
سينما في الأمل وفي عتيق هذا زرزر. أنا كانت أمي أنا تعلمت يعني الطبيخ وأنا صغيرة. أول إشي كنت عند ستي عايشة أنا وياها، ما لهاش حدا ستي، يودوني عندها. أوكي. تقول لي سوي، كان عمري 10 سنين يلا.
Vine leaves are frozen today, they're dried. So Laurette this year dried her vine leaves. And I was just asking her, in Bethlehem, when I was a kid, I used to remember the zucchini, the courgettes, used to be salted and dried. Laurette, nobody does it anymore, right?
No.
I have a surprise for you. I'll be back.
واو.
Hoppa.
ايش هذا؟
Dried kusa.
Wow.
And now we're going to try a few in hot water and see if it works.
It works. وخليه يغلي طنجرة نحضرها تندار على هاي، خليها تغلى رأسا. هو لأنه أول ما كان في طول السنة كوسة. هلا بزرعوا تحت البلاستيك، بزرعوا. مش نفس الطعم. لا معلوم مش زي البلدي.
So now we're ready. The courgettes, the vine leaves, and then we had a few tomatoes, so we also cheated a bit, Laurette, and we stuffed them. What we're gonna do now, the meat that we put at the bottom, we boiled it in some water. We kept that broth. We're gonna add it on top, cover it, put it on the stove, and let it cook slowly for 45 minutes to an hour, and it'll be delicious. I can't wait to taste your wala. So now what we do is we put in a plate just to press it down a bit. لوريت يا لوريت ريحتها بتجنن.
الله يستر.
شمي تعي شمي ريحتها.
الله يدر.
جنن. خلينا نشيل هدول قبل ما نقدمها. عطا. هذا اللي نعرفش شو قصته. لوريت شهي. دوقي الكوسه القديم، دوقي الكوسه العتيق هذا المنشف.
مظبوط زاكي. مظبوط زاكي.
جد يسلم ايديكي. Laurette, the food is exceptional. Thank you. For me, it means so much to be in my restaurant with Laurette's cooking and with a very Bethlehemite dish, because that's what made me start wanting to be a chef. Was growing up in my grandmother's kitchen. Thank you for being with us, and join us on the next episode. We're going to go across Palestine and discover fantastic people like Laurette and fantastic food.
You are welcome. Nice to be with you.
It's a pleasure. Lal Qusa.